Hello and welcome to Angel's Costumes Behind the Seams. I'm Jeremy Angel.
I'm Jonathan Littman.
I'm Richard Green.
The episode we're presenting today is my interview with Suzie Harman. Suzie is a costume designer. I've worked with her at Angels. I've worked with her on a film set. She's done some fantastic films and TV pieces that people have worked, and it's someone who I have a very good relationship with, and I was very happy to be able to interview for our series.
Yes, the thing you worked with her on was Magic Flute, wasn't it?
Yes, I worked with her on Magic Flute. She was the assistant designer to that one with Christopher Oram as the main designer, which we actually get into in the conversation about, and I'm hoping when Jonathan interviews Christopher, we get to hear Christopher's views on Suzie.
And then Bart as well was part of that production, wasn't he?
Bart Karras, Nat Turner, there's a lot of people. What you'll notice now with some of the people we're interviewing, especially of the next wave of designers coming through, Susie's actually worked with quite a lot of them and given a lot of them sort of like some of their first jobs outside of Angels or first film sets. It's interesting in some of the interviews that come out is how the people talk about Suzie. I mean, if you listen to Bart's interview, Bart comments about what he took away from working with Suzie and how what influence she had on him. It comes across in Nat Turner's when that comes out, and it's very interesting. And Magic Flute seems to come up quite a lot with a lot of the team that she works with.
Yeah, I think it was a very involving experience in terms of the concept and the breaking down and the world that they created, because it was all studio based, wasn't it?
We were all based in Shepperton, and they basically built the trenches in H stage at Shepperton, and then we had it all based into different things. It was an absolute spectacle. It was incredible, and as it still to this day is one of my favourite productions to work on. And you'll never get a negative view from majority of any of the crew on it because it was just a fantastic experience. So it's probably not a surprise that a lot of the costume lot have stayed together in different parts.
Did anyone see it?
That was the problem. I know that sounds a horrible thing to say, but it didn't do as well as I hoped it would have done because the music was beautiful. The cast they had sang beautifully.
Well, that's thanks to Mozart, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, does Mozart get a credit?
No. Okay. And the singing in it, the singers the opera singers that we had in that production were phenomenal. And for example, just listening to it live, because yes, they did have a playback track going on during the day, but most of the time the singers actually wanted to sing live because that's what they wanted to do. And so to be able to hear these opera singers sing some of Mozart's most beautiful things live in that environment was incredible. And also she's worked with Kenny as well, so there's a lot of ties in here because she did Pikachu, which will give you palpitations, Richard.
Oh yeah, those police uniforms. Yes.
With Death of Stalin, Richard, how much involvement did we have on Death of Stalin?
We had quite a lot of involvement in Death of Stalin. I'm not sure that we did all of the uniforms for it, although again, I thought it was a very, very well put together production, and I really enjoyed that production.
And that's one of the things about working with Iannucci, because the scripts are wonderful and he casts brilliantly, and it's a dream to, I thought David Copperfield was a stroke of genius. Actually, it was inspired to take it in the direction that he did, and it made everyone sort of rise to the challenge of it. And I just thought that everything was so interesting. It was so watchable.
Susie's one of the designers that I've worked with that's always at least honest with us with what she needs. Like with Copperfield as an example, I always remember she came, looked at our stock, and there was a massive lack due to the popularity of Victorian at the time of simple things like overcoats. And we came to an arrangement that she kept the design nice and simple, but we could make, I think it was 50 new overcoats for her at an agreed price, but it allowed us to increase our stock. And it was quite easily a designer could just have walked out of here and gone to another costume house, I suppose, or made them themselves. But at least she's honest enough to turn around and say, I need this, you don't have it, I need to pay for it, will you make them? And the compromise was made.
Yeah, and I mean, again, the lesson to be learnt for all of this is that come in and tell us what you've got, what your shortfalls are, what you need, and if you can make a good enough case, and that's not pleading well enough, it's actually making us think, well, actually, yes, we do need some more of that, and we could do with beefing that particular section up. Then, within reason, we'll always do it, and we will always do it, won't we, Jonathan?
Yeah, I don't think it's as black and white as being honest or dishonest. I think it's just more about being transparent. and acknowledging the situation and playing to the strengths of the supplier. And it's a given. And Jeremy and I, you and I were talking about it last night, that invariably when there is something being created, a historical drama, there will be 2 or 3 productions that will be along exactly the same lines, which will, there is a limited resource in the world of period clothing. So given that scenario, given the fact that the time and the opportunity is there because we have the resources, tell us what you have, and we will always be prepared to meet that with what's required.
Yeah, I mean, when I say truthful and dishonest, what I'm talking about are people who go, well, I've got this much money in budget for my costume, and then you suddenly discover that there's huge, great boxes of things being shipped in from somewhere else. And that's really what I meant, is nobody minds renting from wherever they want to, but don't plead poverty with me if you're then spending
in order to pay. Yeah,
absolutely.
don't
in order to save some
for...
money so you can rent something else. Absolutely right. And that's what I meant. So transparent probably is a better word.
We hope you've been enjoying these conversations. We've definitely been enjoying your feedback. If you have any questions...
We've definitely been enjoying these conversations.
We definitely have been. I wish you could all hear the audio that's on the edit room floor, as it were. But we definitely have been enjoying these conversations, and we definitely enjoy your feedback. So if you have any questions or requests, please email them to podcast@angels.co.uk. You can visit our website, which is www.angelsbehindtheseams.com.
Please.
Or you can find us on social media, which is on... Oh, my... Oh, okay.
I couldn't help it. It's points of view. Email points of view.
Hello, Robert Robinson here with Mr. Lippman. Mr. Lippman of Tottenham Court writes to say how disappointed he was.
We hope you've been enjoying these conversations. If you have any feedback or questions for us, please send it to podcast@angels.co.uk, or you can visit our website, which is www.angelsbehindtheseams.com, or you can find us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We are just /costume podcast. And here is my interview with Suzie Harman. Today I'm going to be talking to Suzie Harman, who's a costume designer who's worked on films and TV. I've had the privilege of working with Suzie through Angels and before my time at Angels, and it's great to finally talk to her about her story and everything. So Suzie, thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Hello, thank you very much for inviting me, Jeremy. Long time since the Magic Flute.
Long time since the Magic Flute. Suzie had the misfortune of having to work with me as an AD on the Magic Flute, which was, I would have to say, one of the most enjoyable films I've ever worked on as part of a crew. And I'm yet to meet anyone who doesn't have that same feeling, actually, who worked on Magic Flute.
Yeah, absolutely. It was very special, and Mr. Branner set the whole thing. I don't know why, it was just quite amazing, wasn't it?
It wasn't what I was expecting at all, and just the way Ken was incredible. He knew everyone on set and made everyone feel welcome and spoke to everyone, and the crew, everyone just got on, and it really was a team mentality. Every department just...
Possibly having Mozart playing every day was quite a nice thing, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, one of my favourite days was when we did the Queen's aria. It was just beautiful.
Queen of the Night.
It was amazing. And sitting there next to the sound department, they gave me a set of hands to actually listen to her singing live rather than having to listen to the playback they were playing. And it was amazing. Luba was incredible with all of that. I mean, that, as I said, that is one of my... Yeah, I've got such fond memories of it, which is why I have a photo of Suzie and the rest of the crew on the wall of my office every day to look at.
It's funny you mentioned that scene, though, because I look at it in a different way. I remember it being, I think it was H stage at Shepperton, and it felt like -20 in that stage. So from a costume point of view, I mean, it was wonderful. Luba was doing incredible with her ups and downs, but it was freezing.
It was the upside down biscuit tin.
Yeah.
And it was, but we made that place our home. I mean, that was, we had many scenes in that place. Well, we'll get back onto Magic Flute definitely, but let's actually start at the beginning for you, if that's okay. Where did it all start for you? How did you get into the industry, and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, a long time ago, really. I didn't train, I'll say that straight away. I was one of the people that sort of found their way into costume design and learned on the job. I got taught to sew very, very early on by my mum and my grandmother. And I used to basically find any bits of old fabric around the house or curtains in charity shops and make anything I could out of their old patterns, button-neck patterns or the 1960s patterns. So I'd always had this sort of tactile clothing connection, and I'd always sort of shopped in charity shops, but I wasn't ever interested in fashion. I did graphic design at college, art, illustration and graphic design. I suppose going back earlier, I always wanted to be at school. I always wanted to be a designer, whether it was a graphic artist or I think the word designer, I just like the word designer. I wanted to be a designer, literally. And so you sort of go, you follow your friends a bit, and I ended up doing graphics and loved graphics, did a degree in it and did it for a while in Soho. But my passion, I didn't have a passion for it. I didn't want to jump out of bed and do it every day. And it was very computerized. So I did the graphics, did it in London, didn't enjoy it, and went back to Somerset, where my boyfriend at the time was living and where my family are from, and just needed a job, basically. So I wrote to anybody in Somerset that had a word design in their company title. And it was all handwritten letters. This is going way back. And I think it was within the same day. I think the postal service in Taunton is so quick that you send a letter out in the morning and you get a response in the afternoon. It's so small. And a lady couture house that's set in Taunton, Sassy Holford, responded saying, we need a pattern cutter. And I met her the following day and said, I don't know how to pattern cut, but I've been making clothes out of old curtains and, anything, my brother's old rugby kits or whatever, And she said, don't worry, I'll teach you. And I stayed with her for a few years. And she taught me everything about pattern cutting, couture, fitting. It was all bridal and high-end evening dresses. Thousands of pounds worth of dresses. She's designed for royal families. She sells around the world. I knew nothing of this. I was just cutting Joel and Sons fabrics, which were whatever. I was cutting them upside down, so I didn't have a clue. But she taught me everything. And we'd fit all the toiles. I owe her a lot, actually. But so working with her in Taunton, but I had this inkling of the film. It's weird. I don't know if many people say this, but it was, I just wanted to work in film. And I didn't, the movie industry sort of was in the background in my mind going, how can I work in the movie industry? It sounds so glamorous. It sounds so wonderful, what a dream. And I sort of put two and two together and thought, oh, costume, you've got to dress people, as I was doing couture and patterns and everything. And so I decided one day, I'm going to be a costume designer in Somerset at a cutting table. And then my mum bought me this beautiful big book of costume designers. And I thought, oh God, I'm going to have to do this now, aren't I? So I moved to London. So with that, I moved to London with the boyfriend and wrote to and worked for another couture house, pattern cutting, and wrote to anybody I could somehow come up with a contact for. This is way before internet. This is before any sort of online accessing anything. I didn't even have a list of who costume designers were. Well, I didn't even, hate to say this, I didn't even know Angels the Costumiers existed back then.
It's the whole thing of one of the things that's coming out of these interviews is people don't, at the time, didn't know anything.
I remember writing to Alexander Byrne. I think I'd seen a movie she'd done, and I remember writing to her. I wrote to loads and loads of. I wrote to you guys. I didn't get an interview.
I wasn't there.
No, once I found out about you, obviously. But Alexander Byrne, I remember writing. She responded, which I thought was very sweet, actually. So keep you on my records. And so what did I do then? So basically just sending anything out, trying to find any way. And I managed with another costumier who actually came to work with me as my assistant cutter at another couture house, said she wanted to get into costume design as well. So we'd spend all our days chatting away at work, working out how we were going to become costume designers. And we managed to find this independent film newsletter that would come out once a month or once a week, and it would get posted out to you, and you'd look on it and it would tell you what jobs were going. And I'd done nothing at this point. We met with this. It said film, needed crew, no pay, need all these different various roles. And so we went and met the director, and it happened to be in Harrow on the Hill where we were working. And he was like, great, yeah, you can design this movie. And we were both like, okay, right, okay, how do we do this? So we winged it, really. It was a case of, right, let's just get on and do it. Knew nothing that we thought it would all film in the same order every day. We wouldn't have to do continuity. And we were working. So we basically went in, set up the costumes at 5 o'clock in the morning, then went and cut patterns and wedding dresses and everything all day, and then went back in the evening. And it was brilliant. Just had the best time. Had such a laugh meeting all the other crew.
What was it?
I'm not telling you.
Oh, okay.
It's called, the thing is, it was called The In-Betweeners, but it wasn't The In-Betweeners, the one that's come out now. It was, I think we had something like £50 budget or £100 budget. So it was all our own clothes, whatever fabrics we could get, we would just make things. We would go anywhere and get anything. And it was just really, really exciting. And then we basically, I was hooked from that. So it was a case of, okay, next newsletter, is there another film that needs another costume designer or a short film? And I just kept going and going, not realizing that you could go and do a course and you could learn the industry and go and, do it sort of a more academic way. So I definitely did it the sort of apprenticeship way, out on the streets. But just I went from there. So everybody I met that was connected to the film industry, I would get as much information out of them as possible and say, can I help you? Can I do this? Can I do theatre stuff? Anything really. And just built up my experience and learn on the job, basically.
And the person you were talking about with In-Betweeners was Angela, is that right?
It was Ange Egan, who we are still working together.
I was about to say.
Which was it was over 20 years ago, so best buddies and working together.
What noticeable differences do you find working on a film today or TV today to how it was when you started as for you? What are the notable differences?
That's quite a tricky question, actually, because I think it's technology, really. Everything has sped up so much that you have to be able to come up with things a lot quicker and a lot bigger. Do a lot more, and the communication has possibly changed as well, because it is all internet and emails, and you can send things off to LA, and you can you can get you have to get approvals and everything. Back then, I think it felt a bit freer. It was all sort of facts, so you wouldn't. I think there was a little bit more freedom as a costume designer back then, because you didn't have someone sitting over your shoulder demanding sketches or fittings constantly. You basically just did it, and there was trust. And I think there's a little bit less of that, and a little bit more, everybody's got a boss, and it's not such an artistic, creative thing.
So control's been sort of taken away from you a little bit more today than it was back then.
Yeah, I think there was a lot more freedom. I really, maybe, but back then for me, the level of the movies I was doing was much smaller. So then it might have just been that level of movies were more creative, and, directors were willing for you to just collaborate with the actor and just do what you want, basically. Whereas now on the levels of a bit bigger, and a director has a boss. So, it's probably just a different thing.
Do you still get your hands dirty in the cutting respect of things on your shows, or do you much rather have the cutter and just sort of look in every so often, or do you sometimes go back to cutting a few of the pieces that you need for your shows?
I do go back to cutting, but I tend to get looked at by my cutter. They're sort of going, what is she doing? Okay. And there's a little sort of look at the corner of the eye, and I sort of go in and go, yeah, I can do this. I used to be a pattern cutter. And then I realised that, I don't do it every day, all day long. And what they do is so amazing. And, you have to be doing it every day, all day long to keep your skill up. I can't go in and be a tailor. I can't be a cutter, but I can fit. I can explain to the cutter what I want, but I could do it if they weren't all watching me. But they're all judging, going, can she cut?
Yeah. How has it helped you as a designer with your cutting experience? How does that help? How's that helped you further yourself as a designer?
Oh, hugely, because you have to be able to talk to your team. You have to understand people's figures. I mean, I think it's not just about cutting; it's about fitting, and it's about fitting clothes onto a body and understanding how a pattern works. So it's not so much about the cutting of the pattern, but it's about how you basically interpret it onto the body. Or so if you're making something from scratch, it does start very, very basic. But if you're adapting something from an existing costume or a bought costume, then you have to be able to fit it. It just gives you it's the knowledge of clothes, isn't it? You have to sort of know it.
When you're choosing what you're going to work on, is there anything you're looking out for? What I mean, aside from things, I know we have our random conversations time to time when you come in after your job's finished. So what periods are people in? Okay, I'll avoid that one. I'll avoid that one. But what initially excites or draws you to a project? What do you look for when you're getting sent these job offers?
Well, it all starts with the scripts. So the agent gives you a head up of, there's this around or that around, and you get a script through, and it's, if you connect with it, if you can sort of go, okay, I don't really know what this is, but there's something about it. So it's sort of like little stages, and just a little bit of excitement or major excitement from the script, and then meeting the director. It's sort of that then comes together. That then goes, okay, the script's great, the director's great. This is something I really want to do. The project feels like it can be doable within the finances, and where is it shooting? I mean, there's lots of elements really, but it always starts with the script and then who the director is. And who the ADs are, of course, Jared.
Obviously. Not past 2008, 2009 though. That doesn't matter after that.
No, absolutely not.
With what you've worked on, because you've worked on a real nice mix of different periods and different types, different size productions and everything. But you have had the fun of playing around in some really specific periods, and which have got so much detail in them, especially in what's in the characters and everything. I'm thinking, for example, Vanity Fair or Death of Stalin, that's such stylized but really specific looks that it's based on. How relevant is historical accuracy when you're designing those sort of productions? Is that something you sit there and go, no, I've got to get it absolutely perfect? Or is that something you look at and go, I like that, I'll use that, but I'm going to slightly tweak it because I prefer it to look like this? How important is the accuracy?
It is very important, but you have to be able to veer away from it once. Colours. You are creating something theatrical. You're creating a narrative, a book, you're creating a story, you're creating a visual. So it depends really on the job. So if it was a very historical, or if you were doing something documentary style, then you want to get it right. But with David Copperfield, yes, it was historical, but we could veer away colours. We could bring in things that work for us. The colours weren't completely accurately correct for what colours were available during the period, but you're creating characters. So I'm not somebody that says, no, it has to be absolute. I'm not a purist, as I know that's the term people use. I want to inspire people. So I don't want to just give them a replica of a photograph. I want to bring in a lot more with colour, a lot more with shape and form, and just fun within the character. It's all about character. So and who knows actually, what is historically correct? That's the thing. We all pretend we do, but we don't really. And I think there's always room for interpretation, and there's always room that new things are going to be discovered, and that we go, oh, actually, we could have done that, because these cavemen, we didn't realise they were wearing, purple leopard print. It's one of those that, as a costume designer, get asked a lot is, how accurate do you think it should be? And actually, if I'm really honest, I don't think it needs to be accurate at all, because you're telling a story, but you've also got to give the audience as much to educate them within it.
And knowing, working with you on the projects I've worked with you, and knowing the amount of research you put in, and specifically certain jobs, I know you've done a ton of research on the area with certain things. The Death of Stalin, I remember you could recite chapter and verse about uniforms and things, and with things like that, when that comes up, are you scared of uniform when it comes up, or is
No. Oh, I'm not. I love it. I absolutely love it. To be honest, I don't think I'm scared of anything. Uniforms are just another costume, and they're another thing that you have to research and find the really interesting details in. And it's not just, well, this is the uniform. Okay, but how did that person wear it in this situation? No, I love it. Absolutely love it, uniform.
And I mean, Death of Stalin, you had some great uniforms in that, and that was just a fun film to watch. And it also, for you, that was the first time you worked with Armando, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And is that something else you look for? I mean, I know you said the script, but if Armando says, "I've got there's a script that's Armando," will you look at that far quicker than anything else? Because you've worked with him so much, and you're getting used to his process, or is it still going to come down to the script?
Oh no, with Armando, it's it was when I got sent the script for Death of Stalin, I just saw the title, The Death of Stalin by Armando Iannucci, and just went, well, it's a given, isn't it? You just got to, it was sort of like opening the first page was like, oh my God, what am I going to be reading? This is, the man that created Malcolm Tucker. He's just amazing. And so as far as I'm concerned, Armando could send me, we're doing the Humpty Dumpty story, and I'd be in. So with him, it's a completely
coming
different
to your
thing.
screens 2021.
With the new Marvel thing, because they've done all the others, haven't they? They now need to do Humpty Dumpty and Jack and Jill and all that.
That'll be an interesting viewing, a different take on it, rather than going the Grimm's fairy tale approach. Let's go the superhero approach with Humpty Dumpty or something like that.
Exactly.
Which project that you've worked on is the one that you've most enjoyed designing for?
That's a really, really, really difficult question, I have to say.
Sorry.
Yeah, I wonder what other designers have said, because I've got such love, because it's always in hindsight, isn't it? So you're always going, well, so the job, every job with Armando is a dream, because he sends you incredible actors, he sends you incredible characters to dress, and wonderful sets, and energetic and inspiring. But then you've also done, I've gone to Jordan for sort of 3 or 4 months and had the most incredible experience on a military movie, American war movie out there, which was just so spiritual and incredible. So I don't think I can answer that one. I guess I would have to say probably Death of Stalin or David Copperfield, but just because the costumes were such fun. But then Avenue 5, maybe I'd have to say that. Oh, I don't know. I can't answer that.
Fine. Don't worry, not at all.
No, that's a. Or it could be, actually, it could have been one from years ago where we just had such a laugh, and we all, like the first one I ever did with Ange, it was a bit of a party really, and I got to meet my best mate. So, who knows? No,
that's fine. Now you've mentioned working with Armando. You've also, I'm going to talk about Magic Flute because I there's actually something quite interested to hear from your point of view. You were assistant designer with Christopher on Magic Flute. How was working with Christopher, whose background is theatre and opera, not TV and film? How was that as an experience? And
he's wonderful, incredibly creative, incredibly energetic, and he comes from a different viewpoint, a different process to what we do. I think in film and TV, we tend to let the characters build, and there's a slightly more organic process within the design. Whereas in theatre, it's very much, this is the drawing, and this is what we're going to do, and then we're going to make from it. So the process, and there's no fittings or anything before that. So we make exactly as the drawing, and it's done in a very different process, which was great. So the two of us sort of came together and bounced off each other really, and respond and tried to learn from each other. I tried to adapt his process, and he tried to sort of adapt for costume and trying to find the detail. But it is a hugely different thing, theatre and film. I've never done theatre, and a full, not for years. I've done very small fringe theatre, but I've never done theatre recently, and I think it's a big it's a very different process, which I'd probably have to learn from the start.
Is it something that you'd like to do, or you're like?
I would, yes, but I think you've got to have you'd have to have a director that would be able to trust that you'll be learning the process. But definitely, I'd love to. Absolutely.
Well, I know one of the other interviews that's going to go on in the next few weeks is Jonathan's actually going to be talking to Christopher as well, so it'll be interesting to.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he is.
Aww.
So it'll be interesting to see what Christopher says about it. We'll make sure Jonathan asks him a question or two about it, and we can see. You've mentioned here your relationship with Ange that you started, and I know from some of the other people you work with that you're very close with some of the supervisors you work with, and you've got history with a lot of them. How important is your relationship with the supervisor and the rest of your crew?
Oh, huge. Everything, basically. They're your, they lift you up and you spend every day with them. I mean, we're basically like an army coming together very quickly and having to produce creative things. And within our little division or battalion of the army, which is the costume side, there's many different elements, and you all have to work so smoothly together and very fast. That's the thing. You don't have the luxury of a job going on for 10 years and then in an office, and sometimes things work, sometimes things don't work. You have to have the right team around you and you have to all get on.
How involved are you in choosing the crew? I mean, obviously you choose, if you have an assistant designer, your assistant and the supervisor, but the rest of the team, is that decision you completely farm away, or is it something you're involved in as well?
No, I'm definitely involved in it because, one, you have to make sure you've got the right team together. That's the thing. You have to also make sure that the people you're choosing to bring onto the production or wanting to work with can work with each other. And it's quite pressured work we do, so you need to know that the personalities will work together and we can get the job done. So yeah, I'm very, very involved. And also you're picking creative people, and certain creative types are perfect for one job and they're not quite right for another job. It depends on each production. Yeah, no, I always, my assistant designer, I've worked with Tabitha Doyle for the last few years, who's at my absolute rock now, and just makes me laugh at every turn, basically. She just sees something funny in everything, which is wonderful.
You're a fantastic double act to sit down with. I will not lie. It's always fun being in an office or a meeting with both of you two together.
She's but yeah, no, she's fantastic, and she's just so creative, and she gets my sort of style of my taste. She gets that, so I completely trust her, and she can just go off and do what she wants. And supervisor, yeah, they're the one that organises everything, and again, it's like it's like a marriage basically with the assistant designer and the supervisor. So again, I've been lucky enough to work with Katerina, and she's again friends with Tabby, and the three of us, we're sort of like a nice tight rock, which we can then choose the crew, or find the crew beneath that will fit to work with us all on the right project.
And also, again, just to keep going back to it, Kat was on Magic Fleet as well. So
and Kat and Tabby
and
was
Tabby,
as well, and
yeah.
oh, well, obviously now, and
and Androids.
Yeah.
So for the process, when you're putting films together, how important in that process of the film and the work you do are the costume houses that you work with?
Oh, huge, everything, because you've got all these pressures on you, and you've got this massive workroom set up or whatever, or not a workroom and just basically a car to work from, and you walk into Angels, and I come and see you or Richard or whoever, usually it's you, and we sit and you make it feel like it's possible. That's the thing. So all the stuff, you don't have that much money, we need it by this date, you need to make thousands of this, you need to do all of that, and it needs to be authentic or whatever. You guys go, yeah, we can do that. And so it basically is everything.
I mean, the thing that for me, it's obviously lovely working with you. I actually remember when, it's going to sound a very strange phrase, when you became my customer, as it were. And it sounds a really weird thing to say, but there is a reason. I remember it clearly because it was when we had the exhibition. And
yes.
you were in the exhibition with Mike Mooney, and you're both walking around, and we just started talking, and you said, "So you're now on the costume side?" I went, "Yes." You went, "Fine, I'll come and see you," and that was it. It was that was that was the moment, and it was a really straight. It wasn't one of the whole things of, oh, so and so's busy or this, because I was just starting the costume side. It was like, no, I'll come see you, and I always remember that. And that we spent pretty much most of that evening, the three of us walking around just joking.
I think we did.
It was lovely. It was absolutely lovely. And
well, I mean, what we do is so fun, and so it is a laugh. It's the best job in the world, really, isn't it? You know, I mean, we do take it a bit seriously at certain times, and we have a lot of pressures and everything, but it's fantastic. We're so privileged to be able to do what we do.
And it's the camaraderie that is felt by so many different people. Even if you've not worked with them, they all know what it's like. And there's such fantastic characters and people within the industry that make it so enjoyable to work in, no matter what you're doing. I've always loved that. No matter who you meet, there's always stories. And I wanted to sort of almost finish, but on a really lovely, really difficult question. I'd like to,
which is my second favourite movie I've worked on.
Yeah, exactly. If you
which is worst movie.
Worst movie and story why the actor was the reason. What piece of advice would you give to someone who wants to become a costume designer or work in costume?
A few things, really. I go for it. If you want to be a costume designer but you've never done anything, doesn't matter. Just go for it. You'll learn your way within the industry. You'll learn your craft. It won't happen overnight. It's a long process of learning, and you never stop learning. But if it's something that you feel that's in your gut that you've got to do it. You know, don't let people knock you. Have the confidence and learn your craft, and keep open and be nice. And then if you are at school and you're thinking this is what I want to do, then, you know, you can go along the academic approach. But for me, you only learn costume by being on the job. You can learn about period costume, you can learn about different periods at university, but you will only learn the job by doing it. That's the thing. There's not one way. It's difficult, and once you've done your first job, if you go, that's it, I love this, then that's you for the, you know, your career basically. And just keep open and be nice, but just, if it's what you want to do, you just got to do it and do anything. I mean, I was temping to be able to do costume design for Freebie Films. I was temping, I was being a receptionist. You know, I worked in so many different places on reception or telecoms, giving out free newspapers. I did anything so that I could pay my way and, you know, pay my rent and still have my costume career. So just do it.
Brilliant. Well, what a lovely note to finish on. So that's lovely. So Suzie, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and just have a lovely chat about you. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. I've enjoyed it.
Great. We'll speak to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Well, that was my conversation with Suzie. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. It's always nice to talk to someone who's a friend as well as a customer, and I hope that came across in the interview. The next interview that we're going to be doing is Jonathan's interview with costume designer Lisa Duncan.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting chat because, relatively speaking, in terms of the amount of work that Lisa has accomplished over quite a short period of time, she's got a lot to say about the industry and process, and the projects that she has worked on are interesting.
There will be a few changes coming to our podcast in the next few weeks. We have to adapt to, unfortunately, our timescales with things, but there won't be too many changes, but we will be shifting very shortly to being only one episode a week, just due to the ongoing work that we have. Things are slowly coming back, and due to the pressures of the normal day job, but that is coming soon, and we'll still be doing the same interviews. We'll still be doing the same format and everything.
Still high quality.
Well, yeah, exactly. And we are also going to probably shift some of the questions a little bit, because we feel that there are other questions that people have said they'd like to know the answers to. So we are going to try and listen to what people want. And it's a very important thing to us, which Jonathan has also mentioned in the past, that the work-life balance is something we should be discussing a lot more in our interviews. And it's something we do want to bring forward, because we think it's an important part of these interviews with these people in our industry, about how you just do achieve the work-life balance while working in the challenging industry that is film, TV, and things.
And the other thing that we're doing is we're opening up a little bit more, aren't we? We're going to talk to some of the people that actually are perhaps have more of a support role, the people that do dying and breaking down and all of the things that actually contribute and go towards it, not just costume houses, but the people that so often get mentioned in these things by the people.
The unsung heroes.
The unsung
Yes.
heroes, yes.
So we have been listening to all the feedback, and that has all been folded in. But the only major change that is happening from our side is we will be reducing to one a week from the beginning of August. But aside from that, it'll still be the same podcast. We'll still be the same three people. And we hope you guys don't mind it too much.
For better or for worse, will be the...
That aside, here's a small excerpt of Jonathan's conversation with Lisa Duncan.
I think basically for me, it's all about collaboration. And at the end of the day, I have a lot of respect for actors. And I think that's partly why I've been quite successful in a short amount of time. So I work very closely with the actors and explain my vision for the character. That seems to work really well, I think, because for me, just finding the character is so exciting. It's not just about kind of dressing somebody up and making them look kind of glamorous. That's kind of really easy. It's just when the actor feels that the character is there, that's when you know that you're on the right track.